All right, here we are. Vince, we're back. Podcast Twins. So
Episode
go ahead.
6.
Our last episode, most likely.
Yeah, this one might be the one. This one might top us off, but let's go.
This is something that we have said we will not talk about, which
my
we
most hated
are just
subject.
Gonna go right into. I'm with you.
My most hated.
I'm
subject.
with you. And if the FBI or CIA come for us, I want to speak for myself. I am not suicidal.
Right.
At all.
Right.
I'm
if anything happens to me, if I get 2 in the back of the head, I didn't do it to myself.
I didn't shoot myself in the back of the head either. So we got an election coming up.
Yes.
Our choices are probably not the choices we would pick for either party if we were picking.
You know, I literally just had a thought right now. And I'm going to use a sports comparison.
Oh.
Yeah. Because it just registered to me that why Michael Jordan became such a phenomenon. Yes, obviously what he did on the court was amazing, and this, that, and the other. But everybody didn't get to see him.
Mm-hmm.
Where LeBron's era, the internet's crazy, cables all over the world. Back then you had to wait till the Sunday game to get the national basketball game, the one that would come at 3 o'clock on Sundays. That was the only time outside markets got to see Jordan.
Unless you were at the game.
Unless you were at the game when he came to your town.
Yeah.
So the legend grew from word of mouth, from things that people heard. And then when they would see certain things, it would just explode.
Okay.
Where LeBron is easier to be picked apart because we see him all of the time, everywhere. He's still a phenomenal player on the court, but we see he cries all the time. We see he whines and he flops and but it's easier to pick him apart because you see him more.
Okay.
As opposed to the Michael Jordans or the Michael Jacksons, who you only got to see on these national, you only got to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what happened in politics now, because when you were younger,
you didn't see it.
You didn't see it. It wasn't all over the place.
No.
It wasn't the topic of conversations. It rarely made it into schools under the high school level.
I would argue that it was that way till 2020.
No,
you think it was before?
Yeah,
that?
It was before that, because I would say it was the beginning of the Obama era. When and I will tell you why and they credited his cabinet for utilizing Facebook, being the first candidate to utilize social media
as part of the campaign.
Okay. And how he raised so much money through Facebook messaging. Was the first candidate to do so and to be so successful to do it. And then after that, every candidate says, I have to have a strong social media thing. So I would say it's the 2000, what was his first year? 12? Because he went from 12 to 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I would say it was the 2012 election when this thing started to take such a visible thing. And I'll tell you again why I know that, because people's true colors began to really, really show.
What do you mean?
Oh, yeah, because now here's this man who's the first black guy that's going to really look like he's getting close to winning. You started to see people who were, we'll call them closet bigots.
Okay.
Become outward bigots because they couldn't control it anymore, because now you could be a keyboard gangster on Facebook.
Exponentially worse,
but that's what started to happen. And that's why I'm telling you that the visibility of everything really from that, as far as political.
So, but when you say a bigot, right? And racism is a word that gets thrown around.
That's why I didn't use it. That's why I didn't use it.
And a lot of what is called racism is actually stereotypism in many ways, right? Like if you say I'm Italian, if you say all Italians have big noses,
okay,
I don't think you're prejudiced against Italians. Those stereotypes, I mean, a lot of Italians I know got big noses.
Right.
So, and some of them are good. Like if you say Asians are good at math,
right,
that's not really a dig. Like, you're not a racist against Asians.
Right.
So if you need to hire an engineer and you hire an Asian person because they're really good at math, you may not have hired them because you're Asian. You hired them because they're good at math.
And I agree with that 1,000%. But that's why I'm saying the word racism is so wrongly used.
So if someone,
because you have to be able to exercise that power to control that other person.
Right.
That's racism.
Okay. So going by that definition, let's say I didn't like an Obama policy.
Okay.
Right. I didn't like Obamacare because it cost me more and I had worse health care as a business owner.
Okay.
I'm not a bigot. I'm just saying I don't like a policy that happened to be done.
That's fine.
By a president.
That's fine.
Okay.
But that's not the issues that were popping up.
Okay. I don't know. I didn't pay attention
again,
to politics back then. So
I wasn't even trying to pay attention to politics. But as I said before, when you walk into a room and you're like, wow, wow, that guy, he stands out because he's the only one there, you and him. It's like, oh, shit, I see him.
Okay.
It's amazing. So you pay attention. Because it was a big movement, big deal.
And he was on social media more than any other presidential
And he came through Illinois, where I'm from.
Okay.
And so I knew about him when he was the grassroots guy, even though I was already down here in Florida, but my family knew about him. And so they was telling me about this guy, the skinny kid up there, this guy with his African name, and then with this, blah, 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 blah. So it was just those issues that came about that tore apart friendships, tore apart some relationships, tore apart some other things. Because again, in the past, when you didn't have to hide it, well, you didn't have to hide it because there was nobody to throw it at. But now it's like, man, this guy just took over the top seat of the country, and it was so when you had the Boehners of the world, that would probably the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen to any president was when he was yelling out in the audience that during, I want to say it was his first or second, don't quote me on that, one of his, when he kept yelling, liar, liar, nobody does that. Nobody did that in the past, and nobody does in that. But again, he couldn't control it.
If we could get some term limits in Congress, we could fix a lot of the problems, right?
Big issues.
I mean, I don't care if people that are listening right now have a R or a D or an I next to their name. Everybody I know, and I don't know everybody in the United States, but everybody that I know and have met, if they disagree on every single potential issue, they can certainly agree that we need term limits for every position.
I 1,000% agree with that, and oh my God, that is, it would make a lot of changes.
Okay.
Because a lot of people are so comfortable because they know they never have to go anywhere.
Let's get back to current.
So
let's talk about right now.
We'll bring that back.
We got two choices.
So we'll bring that back because that's where it started, and so now it became a show because now you're putting on a show.
Well, you're talking to the right guy because I think most of it is smoke and mirrors.
It's all smoke and mirrors, as we know that this one barks this one barks this one, and they meet each other at the bar.
Yeah, of course.
So we already know how that works, and so it's just a matter of which bullshit lie do you want to believe at this time. That's really what it comes down to. Because I can tell you this, I think I cast my first vote in 1992.
Okay.
For president. I believe that was my first that I was able to do so, and that was during the Clinton era. I can't tell you what a president's being in office has done for this kid in particular.
And my dad made a really great point because we disagree on a lot of stuff when we talk about issues in the world. And my dad is one of my closest friends. I love him.
Of course, that's what makes it fun. He's a mentor.
He's the best, and he gets very emotional about. And I said to him,
"That's the Italian thing."
I said, Dad, give me a couple policies that the president that you voted for has done, and it could be any time in my lifetime. I said, look, you got 42 years to choose from.
Right.
Pick one. And he's like, oh, he didn't really give me any policies. So I said, okay, I see people put on Facebook that, Trump is the Antichrist or Trump is the second coming of Jesus or everything in between. I see people arguing about Kamala Harris's, is she Indian or is she black or is she whatever? I don't care.
Right.
I don't care at all about any of that.
Right.
So I put a post. I think you saw it on Facebook. I said, look, here's a note to anybody posting about politics on Facebook. The only way you're going to change somebody whose vote is an independent or undecided is if you put up some policies that say to them, look, this policy was out there to help you in some way. And I got all kinds of cockamamie answers that had nothing to do with policy. I don't care if they were for Trump or against him or for Harris or against them. You're bringing up the post.
I got to.
And then, the first post I got was actually from my cousin Vincent up in New York. And he wrote, "Stay in Mexico." And I didn't really understand what he meant. So I wrote back to him. I said, okay, does that mean you want me to move to Mexico? Right. Or are you referring to Operation Talon? And do you know what Operation Talon is? So Operation Talon was put in place during Trump's presidency to go after and deport violent sex offenders and pedophiles.
I didn't know it had a name.
Outside of the United States. If they're here, we want to get them back to wherever they came from. Right. And I said, I responded to him. I said, okay, Vincent, you have 1 point. Everybody else on Facebook still has 0 right now because no one else has actually stated a policy. Right. And again, this is one of those things where, like term limits, I look at it and I say, look, if I bring this up to Vince or Ed or Rich or Jeff or any of the people that I consider to be friends that will tell me the truth. Right. I don't think anybody is against that policy that I could think of. Right. If you want to say, like, look, my world is going to, my kids and my grandkids are going to be safer because violent sex offenders and pedophiles are not here living next to us. And maybe there are people that'll disagree with it. Okay. So I can, because that's a great point. And the question came about is, do you group them all up and say, because you're all violent and predators, even though all of them haven't done anything, but they all come from the same place? To my understanding, it was not that. It was to actually find the people that should not be here because they're criminals and we let them in and send them away. So we look to do the same thing that we should be doing against our own citizens. I'm fine with that. So we just treat a criminal like a criminal. It doesn't matter who they are, what they look like, where they come from. Agreed. So if we could just stay there and leave it there. So my question then is, when the new president took over, why didn't he say, okay, this is a pretty decent policy, but let's do this for everybody? Okay. He just got rid of the policy completely. So that one raised a red flag because it's like, well, why wouldn't it, like you just said, a logical person like yourself that says, okay, well, that's a little bit of an extreme policy. Right. Why don't we just make it across the board for citizens as well? Well, it's just we're better than them. Well, we're better than them. I mean, you can't treat me like them because then I won't be better than them. See, remember, I don't think we're better than this them. Whole system is a caste system. It's racism is bullshit. Okay, it's classism. Okay, that's what this thing. Racism was created, and I'm using racism to draw this together because racism was created to what? Keep you from watching my money. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to make you guys kind of battle it out, but I'm going to make one above the other so y'all don't get together and come take all my money. They pit generations against each other. So they pit anybody against each other. Because now you have this fallout from that, which is genius when they created it. But now you have hundreds of years of fallout from that. So now people don't even understand where it came from. Mm-hmm. So when you are from here, because they constantly tell you what, this is the greatest country in the world, right? That's what they say. That. And they want to drill that into you. What? But when you travel to some of these other countries, you may not hear that so often, so overwhelmingly, lovingly, like you would 100 years ago. You hear, you're a terrorist.
your country's a terrorist. They've done terrorist things, but we call it patriotic. Mm-hmm. So again, it's all about how you take your paintbrush and you brush the picture.
All right.
So if you're from a country, I'm from here, we commit the same crime, I'm like, man, you can't treat me like this guy.
So let me ask you this question.
Even though we did the same crime.
There's, I don't know, a couple billion people on Facebook probably.
Probably.
And I know I don't reach them all. But how come? And I even said, I'm like, okay, you guys are off the rails. Let me give you an example of a policy. And I picked a policy intentionally because my dad is a lifelong Democrat no matter what. He votes the party no matter what. And Bob Graham was one of his favorite governors of Florida. Mm-hmm. And in 2002, Bob Graham put in a law that you should not be smoking indoors.
Okay.
And as a person who has had several people close to me pass away because of smoking-related issues, cancer, lung issues, COPD, etc., I was for this.
Okay.
Now, I got an argument from a good buddy, Michael, that said, I was kind of conflicted on this one because it takes the freedoms away from people. However, ultimately, I agreed with it.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, there's one. And then there was one where Jeb Bush was the governor, and it was something along the lines of protecting the health of, men, women, and children. And I put that on there. Okay. And it was kind of the same thing. I said, here's two examples.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Here's two examples. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm looking for.
Okay.
I still have not gotten a second policy out of anybody. So out of all the people on policy that I just put the challenge to, where the hell are the policies? Have you ever read a policy?
No, that's the whole thing.
That was my point.
You're not educated except for the 30-second clips that come on TV.
Or Facebook or Twitter or whatever.
That's even shorter. So
8-second
clip.
Yeah,
so now you got a 30-second clip that comes on TV, and just like right now, what do you see? Vote for Amendment 4, vote against Amendment 4, vote for Amendment 3, vote against Amendment 3. And all these actors are doing a great job showing you why they feel this way, or why they got paid to say they felt that way, or the doctor who I think they discovered is a real doctor saying whatever he said about he can't even treat his patients, without blah, 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 without the fear of being sued. And again, I get it, but even on this web of information, it is very difficult to actually find the policy itself in total. You can find parts, but they're not giving us the full policy to read. The only time you're going to get the full policy to read is when?
Never.
When you walk in that booth and that big long piece of paper with all this long crap in there, it's excerpts from the entire policy that we won't get until. How many people read that long thing once you get in that booth? Because you walk in there already knowing who you're voting for, why you're voting for them. Not really why, but in your head who you're voting
against.
Yeah, or voting against.
Most people will vote against a candidate, not necessarily for a candidate. So, I think a lot of people do.
So even with that being the case, Bob Graham did my graduation from college, by the way.
Way.
Yeah, okay. he was our speaker. And he had a private conversation with me for about a minute, and people was like, "My God, what is he talking about? Is he offering him a job?" No, man, he was just asking me where I was from, what I did, and stuff like that.
Yeah, he was being a politician.
He was being
nice to a voter.
Yeah, and it started good. But anyway, that was good. But the funny thing about that is that you brought up good points, and you're bringing up things that people, they are just voting the line. But I'm just laughing because you're wearing shirts, you have flags on the back of your vehicle, you have bumper stickers everywhere, you've decorated your house in the yards and all this other crap, but you can't recite a policy or at least touch one and say why you want to go this so hard, and you don't know this person.
No.
You have no idea what this person lives, does, what they really do behind closed doors.
And no matter who gets elected, nothing really changes for you the next day. You still got to take care of your family,
going all out there,
close friends, do good things, and take care of your business.
I don't care who you vote for. That blows my mind. That is the equivalent of the whole Barkley "I'm not a role model" commercial. You remember that?
I do.
I'm not a role model. He was basically saying, hey, look, where's your father? Where's your mother? These should be your role models, people that you actually know. I just play basketball. I can be your basketball role model, but I'm not your moral role model.
And really, Jordan should be your basketball role model, or Kobe should be your basketball role model.
If you happen to have the body of a Barkley, you might want to practice the game of a Barkley. Everybody's not 6'6", 202 pounds like Jordan, ripped up, going to do his thing. Barkley was just a beast. But
a round mound of rebound.
Absolutely. But if you look at that and apply that to what I just said politically, are these people not looking, saying, because you're going to literally decorate your house and your car and saying that this person is literally, you've made him or her into a god.
I'm not.
And this is what's happening. Because you can go up and down Okeechobee Road later on, because they're usually out there around 6 o'clock with their things, and you can go in there, and there's a guy who has a Facebook page. I love him. And he asked them all, why? What are you?
No idea.
They have no idea either way.
Either way. Yeah.
They have no idea either way.
That man on the street interview. Forget that.
But they have no idea. They can't even articulate anything other than, well, I don't think she can do this, that, and other, or he's an idiot, da, 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 da. I may have my personal issues, but I don't feel that strongly about any one of them to get up out of my house, go stand on a street corner, holding your name on a sign, to do what?
I got one guy, Chris Eddy.
Okay.
Chris Eddy is running for Congress in my district. Against...
Wait a minute.
Hold on.
You said Congress in your district.
That's right.
So it's going to affect you.
That's right.
It's going to affect him.
But I've met Chris Eddy through golf. He is not a career politician.
Okay.
He is a ex-FBI and Air Force guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems to have more common sense than any other politician I've ever met. He also happens to be running against someone who is a career politician.
Scary. And
gave a whole bunch of money to Iran. And brokered a deal to give a lot of money to Iran. And there's a large dichotomy in that for me, because I think that with the term limits kind of, background, and I've had Chris Eddy on my On Par podcast 2 times.
Okay.
And I didn't know what questions to ask necessarily, because I'm not a politics guy.
Not into politics like that.
But he impressed me to the point where I would say to somebody like, hey, I'm voting for Chris Eddy. And I could confidently say I'm voting against his opponent as well.
Did you bubble wrap your house with Chris Eddy's name?
I did not bubble wrap my house. I don't have anything on my car.
Okay, so...
Maybe I should.
But if someone personally talks with you, you have no issues expressing that. And you can also say why.
And I do.
So that puts you about 99% above most of these people that are doing those other things, that are running up and down the street doing this other, putting these flags on, because they really don't know. Again, I have yet it's a very few people
that can answer the question.
There are some, because I have had those conversations, because I don't really do politics. But when I do...
Look, they're welcome to put in the comments what policy they love and who it's responsible for it.
I want to know
it to us.
And then
we'll check it with ChatGPT and make sure it's legit.
Well, I would say, but why do you need to tell the entire world who you're voting for? What do you think that's going to do?
You don't have to.
But that's what's happening. That's why you're painting your house and you're doing...
My point is, if you're going to tell someone, okay, I'm voting for Donald Trump or I'm voting for Kamala Harris, you should be able to give one reason and link it to a policy that actually helped the majority of people. I tell you this, Vince, and I mean this with every fiber of everything I believe in. Until we have clean food, clean air and clean water, these politicians, and I don't care what level they're at, should not be able to discuss any other damn issue. Because if they're really true public servants that have our best interests as regular Americans, I consider myself a regular American, right? Yeah. We're what do you call it? We're post-broke, but not we're pre-rich or whatever. We're not. I'm not broke. I'm pre-rich. We're not in the top 1 or 10%.
No.
We're regular guys running our business, managing our family, doing the best we can. So that's it. That's if you can't have clean air, clean food, and clean water for your GPIPs, right, you shouldn't be allowed to discuss any other damn topic.
So what happened to the separation of church and state? See, I'm back to the whole point of whatever you do, whatever you practice, that's between you. Why is it that you got to tell the world who you're voting for?
I don't think you do.
But this is the whole issue.
Whole thing is, look, there's people that tell the world who they're voting for six times a day.
Those are the people that I'm referring to, because again, it has over the last 16 years or so, whenever that since 2012, I'm just saying how it has destroyed friendships and destroyed families, work relationships. It has destroyed this because it has become, you have taken on this jacket that really don't affect you.
And you really shouldn't be wearing it. But if you run for president tomorrow,
right,
I'll get a Vince. Right. I'll get a Vince Bell shirt.
We are personal. You understand what I'm out here trying to do. You believe in it, and we're going.
Then I'll have a Vince Bell shirt.
But there's, again,
I might get a Vince Bell shirt before that, though. But go on.
I've never met Ms. Harris, and I've never met Mr. Trump. I've never had a personal discussion with them. I used to love The Apprentice. I just thought watching these business people run around here doing their thing. But again, if you remember that show, he had very little to do. He came on in the last 7-8 minutes and fired somebody. People, yeah. That's pretty much all he had to do. My joy was to literally being a business major was to watch these people go out there and execute. So I thought the show was genius in that regard. And that was it, other than that. And then, of course, we got to watch some of the congressional hearings where Kamala Harris was out there doing her thing. So, again, I don't know these people.
And I didn't watch any of the interview last night, but I did hear about it at a networking group this morning. And I'll share what the one tidbit that I did hear. And it's just Trump being a comedian, basically, right? He said
he's a funny guy.
Put his hand on Chuck Schumer's shoulder and said something along the lines of, "Don't worry, Chuck, your party is so woke that if Kamala doesn't win, you can still be the first female president of the United States." Look, so it's a circus.
The guy,
it's just a circus.
The guy is, and that's why that's probably the only answer across the country that I've seen that's consistent, is people love that he'll just say whatever comes to mind, and it makes them feel relatable.
And that's why people hate him too. Right? Just on the other side.
Just on the other side. But I mean, consistently, and again, people that I know, people that I've watched, people that I've seen on television, probably the most consistent theme was the fact that they feel he speaks to them, because when a career politician thinks, he's like, whoa, we got to process this somewhere between here and here. Because once it comes out here, I can't take it back. DT don't care nothing about that, man. He like, look, we're going to let it ride, baby.
Well, so do this for us. If you're listening to this and watching this, tell us if you want us to stay away from this topic.
Please
tell us to stay away from this topic.
Please.
Or let's steer us into the skit. Give us a couple policies.
Right.
We'll actually do some research, which we do not want to do. Tell us to change to any other topic. Please do us a favor.
Please.
And that's it. Podcast number 6 over.
And we didn't even jump off of this.
And I'm going to go take a shower and go to bed now. I'm done.
I'm dirty after this conversation. Take care, brother.
All right, man.
Peace, everybody.